Okay, so I've added some different things. My sound died on me at some point in time, so I'm going to do it this particular way, and I'm going to show you what I did, talk through some things. So the very first thing we're going to talk about is the rim of the flower pot. So what I did for the rim of the flower pot, since everything kind of starts at 110, I moved my pointer to 110, right? I moved my scrubber to 110. Then what I did is I went up here and I chose this down drop and I chose the rounded rectangle tool. Now, you'll draw the rounded rectangle, and I'll do this and then you'll kind of see the way it works. I drew my rounded rectangle. In my case, it's a star because I forgot to choose that. The very first thing it'll do is it'll choose a rounded rectangle option right there. So let me just undo that. So I'm going to undo the star. I'm going to choose the star tool, and I'm going to choose the rounded rectangles tool instead, right? So I'm going to highlight, and I'm going to place a rounded rectangle. Now, it'll actually choose a shape layer that looks like this, okay? So I'm going to edit and undo mine. You keep yours where it's at, because we're going to go to the one I've already created, which is the rim of the flower pot. Now, at 1 minute, whatever, I chose the rim of the flower pot, and I come down and I choose the color to be the same color as the flower pot itself. Now, if for some reason I can't recreate that same color, what I could do is I could go to the base of the flower pot. I could open up the color dialog box for the, not the stroke, but the fill. I can highlight the hexadecimal code, copy that, then go up to the rim of the flower pot, and then go make sure it's selected, the rim of the flower pot, and then I go to my color and I choose, and I can just paste that in. So it'll do the rim of the flower pot. The other thing that occurred is my stroke color wasn't the best, and I had to make sure my stroke color stayed was black, so it didn't occur. So what I do is I come along here to my stroke color, and then I choose for my color. I actually change, I could delete it, right? So it's outlined in black, or I can actually change the opacity to 0 so it doesn't show. So either one of those begins the rim of flower pot. At the point in time when I start the rim of flower pot, what I want to do is, you'll notice mine's like right here, which is fine. It's not a big deal. Just move it right here. For the fill color, I want to choose a stopwatch right here, and it's going to add a point right here, a keyframe. So then what I do is I move all the way to the end. You'll notice as I move to the end, ignoring my star because I'm going to talk through that in a minute, I move all the way to my end, and then at this point in time, I change my color to whatever my color of the flower pot was. So if I don't remember what that is, I could go to the base of the flower pot. I can open up my fill color. Right, here's my fill color right here. I can highlight it here and then use it back on the rim. So I could go back into my rim of flower pot, open it up, go to my fill color, which is right here, and I can change it or just paste that item in, right? So that takes care of creating this, and I'll walk through those steps again real quick. Okay, once again, I was at about position 110. I drew a rounded rectangle, right? So there's my rounded rectangle that I drew, and it was called the rim of flower pot. So I renamed it the rim of flower pot. At the position 110, I then went in and changed the color to match the color of the pot. If I didn't recall what that color was, I could do the base of flower pot and come along to my color here. I can highlight the hexadecimal color right here, and I can Control C to copy it. I could go back to my rim of flower pot here and just paste it, right? Then the idea is to get it the same. If I don't like the black outline of the stroke, right, I could come into my stroke 1 color and I can change that to the opacity to 0, and it'll take care of that. Then what I did is I moved all the way down to 4, right? Oh, yeah, and before I move that, I make sure for my fill, I chose color, so it places a keyframe mark here. So that way, when I move all the way down to the 4th, right, you'll notice my color is now 0, and so it changes appropriately. I can also, for now I am going to work on my falling star. Now, what I did was, I changed my, I was at position 1, I put in a new falling star. So here's my falling star. Boom, falling star. Okay. I changed the fill of that. I just basically left it the same, the fill and the stroke as it was before, which is fine. Now, from here at the very beginning position, I click my add, and I want to add a pucker and bloat. Okay. So with my pucker and bloat selected, I then choose the amount at the beginning position is equal to 0. And the way the pucker and bloat works is it's going to change the shape of the star and change the elements related to the star. Then what I do is I drag my I drag my scrubber all the way down to position 4. And then for my amount for the pucker and bloat, I chose 139. Now you'll notice at position 139, I can see the flower petals and I can begin to see this develop, right? So if I look through it now, you've got your flower pot that changes, and you've got your stars that fade out. I haven't done any fading with the other star because it's going to turn to a flower petal at some point in time. So let's continue from here. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to select our falling star. We're going to push P, that's going to bring up the position, and we're going to push Shift S, which is going to bring up the scale. We're going to make sure I'm at position 1, and we're going to click the stopwatch next to each of the properties to create an initial keyframe. So we're going to create a stopwatch here and here, so the position and the scale will be the same as it starts at this location. Then what we're going to do is we're going to move it to a new location, which would be 420. So I'm going to move this down to approximately 420. Your timing, I'm just going to put it 10 frames. 420, which is on the other side. Your timing doesn't have to be 100% the same, but at least it's close. Alrighty, let's continue from there. After moving my scrubber down to 420, all I then do is I come along and I change it to my selector tool. Once I change it to my selector tool, which is this arrow right here, I went ahead and left-clicked and held on it at 420 and moved it to here. And what you're doing is basically creating a motion between another program in After Effects. So you're going to have it where it starts off as a star, similar to the way we did in the very beginning, and then it comes along and it hovers above the pot. Now, in my particular case, let's say I didn't necessarily want it to be, I won't need it a little bit farther. I can easily move this up and, rotate it this way, and so you get more distance between the top and the bottom. But our animation is beginning to take shape. Okay, so what I did at this point in time is I made sure I was still at position 4, where my position keyframe was already selected. After I choose where my keyframe is selected, I then choose position. Now, when I modified the scale. So I modified the scale to be, mine says 157, but basically you can take your mouse pointer here, you can left click and hold, and you can drag out, and it's going to make it bigger. But when you make it bigger, it's going to probably rearrange its location a little bit. I had to move it around. You want to make absolutely sure that your keyframes are aligned, otherwise you'll get a tail here because it's changing the position and the size after it's reached this keyframe. So I've changed it. You'll notice now it's all at the same keyframe. And the idea is as I move from one position to another, not only is it growing, but it's also hovering over my flower pot, which is exactly what I want it to do. Okay, then what I want to do is I want to go ahead and adjust the arc of the flower itself. The way I adjusted the arc of the flower itself is I went in and I moved to position 220. Right, there's position 220. And then I grabbed the mid portion of the arc, which is this section right here, and then I moved it up slightly. And then when I moved it up slightly, it's moving the arc itself. So what'll happen is it'll still, and it's a much gentler movement from one section to the other, right? Okay. So let us continue from there. Okay, the next